Right, okay, on Max Sports now we're just joined by an England fan, Tom Jones. Good evening, Tom.
Hey, good evening, Masood. How are you?
Great, thank you. I'm just not really great because after the days of cricket we watched, it was just not a wonderful day for us. Well, Pakistan fans really, but great day of cricket.
Yeah, I'm actually really happy for Zach Crawley. So yeah.
He's got the Pakistanis crawling, eh? Crawley gets the Pakistanis crawling.
Well, I don't know how much of a how many chances he got or whether he gave any chances to for anybody whilst he batted. But I think he's one of those younger players who's quite grounded, quite modest, quite humble, not a prima donna type of player. And I think having not been picked for a previous couple of games to come back and score 170 not out is a hell of an achievement for him.
Yeah, no, unfortunately, I did watch it. I watched him when he came in, and from the beginning, he's really positive. So he didn't give any chances, not even a half chances. He was actually brilliant. He took the attack to Pakistani bowlers and just hit them all over. He actually was really, really positive. So there's nothing that he didn't go on the defensive, whereas the other one or two of them were pinned back by the Pakistani bowlers. But he just basically free flowing, absolutely fantastic. Somebody who's 22, who loves his cricket and seems like enjoyed his day.
And he didn't look in trouble at all. He didn't look in one bit of trouble what I've
It's my
heard and
friend
seen.
Tariq. Tariq has joined us as well. He's here as well with us.
Right. Yeah, I think he's somebody. I just saw him walk off the pitch. I watched the last 5 minutes, and it's very refreshing. I think for any spectator now to see a professional cricketer genuinely smile from beaming from ear to ear when something's gone well, because more often than not they're so well trained in PR that they're not allowed to kind of show too much in the way of emotion. But he just looked so delighted to have managed to get his maiden Test century as he walked off, and so he should.
And Butler's played well.
Yeah, well, I'm pleased for Butler because I think again he's another of the good guys. I personally wouldn't have picked him for this series. I would have picked Folkes for the summer, and I don't really think Butler is a Test match cricketer, but you can't deny that when his back's been against the wall, he's then put in two very, very good innings back to back, and he probably gave Crawley a lot of moral support at the other end.
Yeah, I mean he's done really well for somebody. I mean behind the stumps he's not been brilliant, but he certainly seems to have done it with the bat this summer, hasn't he?
Well, until the second innings of the last Test match, he hadn't. I think that a lot of people in the press and former players were all calling for him to be dropped. But he's a very well respected guy, I think, in the dressing room and also within the management team. Again, he's very kind of modest. He's a great team guy. He's obviously got a wealth of experience in all different formats of the game. I still don't think he's a Test match player. I think he's much more suited to short format white ball cricket. But good for him. Showed a great deal of mental toughness, which is something that sometimes has been lacking in the last few years for the England batsmen.
So here's a question for you then, Tom. Come next winter, the tour to Australia.
Yeah.
England's batting is kind of middle order is a bit fragile. So what are you going to do with Butler? Are you going to play him behind the stumps and get him to bat, or are you going to go with Ben Folkes? So what are you going to do with Butler then?
I don't think you can not take him just for his experience and the respect he's got. But as to whether, he's all right standing back. I think where he's questionable is standing up, and Australia's not really a kind of a place to go where that's going to be tested much. I don't think we've got a spinner that spins the ball a lot anyway. So, but I would take another specialist keeper. I would take Folkes, but I would keep Butler in as a batsman.
Mm-hmm. The other question I want to ask you is about England generally about middle order. Although they've done okay this summer, what are the problems? Is it a mental thing, or do they get too complacent? And do also come in, Masood. The middle order always seems to collapse generally, where they've been 200 for 3 and then suddenly 300 all out, or 120 for 2 and then 200 all out, or whatever. So these collapses do happen still, although they've happened in the last couple of test matches, unfortunately or fortunately, depending on which way you want to look at it. So how are you going to resolve them issues?
I don't think that's an issue that is going to be resolved. I think that since the last sort of management team and regime came in, I think the whole mentality changed at test match level. And by that I mean that batsmen were encouraged to just go play their natural game, and if that meant that they pushed too hard at the ball and nicked off in the slips or behind, then so be it. But you know, when it was their time to cash in, they would cash in. So I think there are going to still be collapses in the middle order, but you know, it's a new management team now. It's a new wave of players coming through that wouldn't necessarily have been around and been considered, you know, 4 years ago when England last went to Australia. So I personally think one of the biggest prospects for the future is Ollie Pope. I think that for Test match cricket, he has got absolutely everything, technically, tactically, and most importantly, mentally as a batsman. So I don't think it's mental frailty. I don't think it's that at all. I think it's more a case of the middle order in recent years just being susceptible to just going out and playing too attacking too soon, or too aggressively and playing too hard at the ball rather than being patient. And you know, Test match cricket is very different to ODI or T20, as we know. And you know, you need to adapt. And I think some of those middle order batsmen haven't adapted, and some of them I don't think can adapt as well. Whereas I think Ollie Pope has got the game for Test match cricket for a very long, successful career ahead of him.
What do you think of Jofra Archer? I mean, he's been talked about being brilliant and everything, so he hasn't been really hot this summer, has he?
Yeah, I think he's a performer that likes the big stage. I think he probably, you know, I don't think. Well, I think he would be the first to admit that the year he had last year, there's no way he'd have been able to predict 24 months ago that that's what would have happened to him. But I think he's probably struggled a bit to get motivated after such a brilliant year last year, and then playing in front of, you know, what effectively is empty stadium. So I think he's got genuine pace, but I think he's got a lot to learn in terms of his craft, both at Test match level and as a one-day bowler. But he's probably more impactful as a one-day bowler than he is at Test match yet. But I still think he's got that pace which, going on to the hard pitches in Australia, we'd be foolish not to take him.
What do you? I mean, both of us were lucky enough to watch Wasim and Waqar at their pump. What do you think of the current Pakistani fast bowling attack?
I think it's a really exciting sort of blend of different styles of bowling. You've got genuine pace with the young 17-year-old lad who I think, you know, I heard Wasim talk about how he can, you know, he probably needs a little bit of help in terms of his non-bowling arm and his follow-through, just to get a little bit more accuracy and control in terms of his follow-through. But he's got genuine pace. He also moves the ball off the seam. You've then got genuine pace left arm over the wicket, which I think is always a really good weapon in any format of cricket. And then you've got Mohammad Abbas, who he just seems to kind of put the ball on a sixpence, you know, ball after ball after ball. He's probably somebody who's well suited to English conditions. You know, from my first viewing of him a couple of weeks ago, but his statistics seem to prove otherwise, because he's got wickets wherever he's bowled. So yeah, I really like the blend of different armoury that Pakistan have got at the moment. I like the captaincy. I like the approach of the different people that they're consulting with, former players and former captains, etc. Experts in all their respective fields, batting, bowling, etc. So I think it looks a good platform for Pakistan at the moment.
Well, Pakistan's batting coach Yunus Khan seems to be writing a book, because every time the camera pans onto me, he's actually jotting down the notes and stuff. And I seem to think, well, is he writing a book, or is he writing a novel, or what is he actually writing? What are the notes? So one of my friends I was talking to and said, "Can you ask Yunus what is he writing down?" He's a bit like Mourinho, isn't he?
Mourinho, like Wilkinson.
Yeah, they were always making
Yeah,
notes.
Howard Wilkinson used to make notes every time you blaming moved, I think.
Yeah, but some people learn that way, don't they? I mean, I'm a big note taker, and I think that by writing stuff down, it's actually the physical art of writing it on paper that actually makes you remember it more than actually typing it into an iPad or laptop or whatever. And you know, if he's a real student as a coach, he will be watching every ball, and if he's the batting coach, he'll be watching every batsman's ball as you know, as they face it, what they do, whether they leave it, etc., and he'll be able to then reference those notes and, you know, make good observations and ask good questions after the event.
Which way do you see the Test match going now?
Well, at the moment, England are obviously in the box seat. I think
Only
if
one
they
way.
bat for another two sessions tomorrow, they're likely to get past, yeah, maybe a score of 500. It's very difficult for a team who are going to bat, you know, last in the Test match to get a result from that, which obviously Pakistan need to do to level the series. So I think, you know, Root is he's a relatively smart captain when he's in a strong position. So I don't think he's going to play into the hands of the Pakistanis and give them an opportunity to get a result in this game. So I think at best the Pakistan team can expect to get a draw.
Tom, England don't need 500. I was saying earlier on to Masood that a score of 400 will be more than enough for England.
Yeah, that might be the case, Tariq, but I think what Root will do is just want to wear the Pakistan team down. I think he'll want to keep them out on the field for at least 2 sessions, if possible.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, but, you know, for me, I think if England have got 400, I think it's game, set, match. Or,
yeah, well, yeah,
yeah.
Probably statistically, you're probably right, but you know, I think he'll want Butler to go on to get 100. I think he'll want the tail to wag, and I think he'll want to sap the energy of the Pakistan fielders and the top order batsmen, so that mentally, when they go in, they're going to be, you know, tired before they start.
They were tired after lunch, mate, today. Well, you know, they didn't come out after tea. I don't know what they had. I don't know whether any Yorkshire tea was served across there. They need some decent teacups. I don't know in Southampton whether they've got. I've got to speak to my brother and tell him to sort something out. Give them some proper chai.
Proper chai. Tom, I've got one more question for you.
Go on, you got him going now as well. Go on.
After Anderson and Broad, what are we going to do, or what England going to do? I do worry about the bowling department possibly.
Well, I'm not as advocate, or I'm not as close a follower of county cricket as perhaps I should be to be able to give you a specific answer. But I think that you know, the England head coach now, Silverwood, is, you know, that was his trade, wasn't it? His trade was a county cricketer as a bowler. So I am sure he and his scouting team and his talent identification team have got plans in place for succession to Broad and to Anderson. I personally think that Anderson will retire in the next. I mean, I guess he'll probably want to go and have a swan song in Australia, but I think he'll retire before Broad. I think Broad will have another maybe couple of years in him, and so they've got 18 months as a kind of a transition period to try to find replacements. But you're not going to just magic, you know, 900 wickets or 1,000 wickets or whatever it is in Test match cricket overnight. So I think that Silverwood and the team will be looking more long term as where their best options are, but they'll have plans in place for sure.
I think Broad's got another 3. How old is he? How old is Broad? 32, 33?
32, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think Broad comfortably could have another 4 or 5 years, really.
Yeah, potentially.
Yeah, potentially, I think he could, and I think because he loves that challenge and he's very competitive, I think he could do it. As Jimmy's a bit more quiet,
He's
a bit more reserved.
now as well, Jimmy. So
yeah, Jimmy is, yeah. And Jimmy's done really well.
I think what's worked really well for England and for Broad was dropping him. I don't think they realised that by dropping him, it really, really spurred him on to kind of have that drive and motivation to wanting to prove his kind of contribution and worth to the team. I think if they just picked him in that for that first Test match earlier in the summer, I don't think he would have taken as many wickets. I don't think he'd have been bowling as well. I certainly don't think he would have batted as well. But by leaving him out of that game, it's kind of worked even better for England and for Broad, I think.
Thank you very much on that note. We shall see if we can call you tomorrow and disturb you again. Thank you for your contribution today. Have a good evening.
No disturbance at all. Very enjoyable. Always a pleasure to talk to you, Masood. All the best, Terry.
Thanks a lot. See you tomorrow night.
Bye.
Bye.